Welcome back, everyone. This is LanceScurvX, the Scurv podcast. You know, I did a video several days ago on Tiger Woods, and the responses were really amazing to me. It showed me how many people feel about themselves on a racial level, but I was just ranting and giving my opinion, as I always will. And it really showed me not just ignorance, but there's a deeper issue that many people, and I'll say black and others, but to really cover this and just flush out the foolishness, let's just call black people highly melanated, because there seems to be a growing number of people who were or are categorized as being black. Now, back in the day, decades ago, they had the one-drop rule, where if you had one drop of black blood, you were considered black. You can look like a Caucasian, but you were considered black. I find it interesting now that so much has changed in the present day. Now we have the term called biracial. Where was that term many decades ago? We had the one-drop rule. It was once and done. Now we have biracial. Why this new category? And then when we speak of someone like Tiger Woods and say he's black, or dispute him in saying that he's Caplanasian, there are many people who get very upset when we don't accept that term. What happened to the one-drop rule? I'm not saying it has to be that way because we didn't define ourselves that way. But it always seems as though when others, the world minorities, because from what I'm hearing, Caucasians in the world are only 9 or 10% of the world population in comparison to people who are non-white. So they are the minorities. But there's so many of us who want to defend them as being the dominant. They are the recessive. The dominant are the highly melanated people, which black people fall into that category. But a lot of people in the present day, for whatever reason, I'll say this, many of us have an identity problem. Many of us who would have to check the black box don't want to have to check the black box, right? So I'm going to give you an out and say highly melanated, okay? We're still darker than most, right? And again, we're not the world minority. You may be a minority in a certain state or a certain neighborhood in America or a certain city, because that's everybody who is not black grouped up together in a concentrated fashion. So if you don't see yourself that much, or people who look like you will feel that way. But when you pull the scope back and look at things on a global level, you will see those who look down on you because you're highly melanated, they're the ones on the way out with the low birth rates. But their media and their perception of the world, how they want to impose that on people who are melanated, we go on believing that. There are weeks, months sometime, here in West Africa where I don't see a Caucasian person unless I go to the tourist areas and, where they come and visit or whatever. But there seems to be an issue with us and other people. Now, why was it changed? Why or these other categories brought in. It seems to me like they were brought in to reduce our concentration or the perception of our concentration as melanated people, right? You know how many people who consider themselves Latino are highly melanated, right? But they check the Latino box. I'm just picking them out of many groups. So if we lumped everybody together as melanated, what a powerful united front that would be. But more and more categories are being made up to divide us up. It doesn't mean you have to have the same mindset, because people grow up in different countries, different cultures. But as melanated people, we've been spread out all over the world. There seems to be a fear from someone that we all might join together, even though we may have different cultures and come from different countries and different customs. See, the funny thing is, it seems as though with the brainwashing tool called social media, that all these categories are being made to keep us divided. What's the fear, right? But see, those of us who are melanated, we don't understand that we all have the same enemy. We all have the same enemy that is against black, that is against color, that is against being melanated. We all have the same enemy. And so many of us punk out on being who we truly are. You see, as they say, you can get the recessive from the dominant, but you can't get the dominant from the recessive. And just like it was appropriately named many years ago, Public Enemy's album, Fear of a Black Planet, that's a fear. That's a fear. And that fear has been transferred to the psyche of many of us who are melanated. And that's nothing we need to fear. That's nothing that we need to fear at all. So why are we afraid of us being dominant? Because we already are. But somebody doesn't want us to know that. Isn't that something? So we fight against each other. We don't want to be called black. We want to make up names and categories. Well, just say you are melanated. Let's say you have a high melanin count. Let's change the language and see what category that they will come up with to come against that. You see? And it's funny because many will say that we want to lump everybody who may be mixed. Most of us are mixed. Look at me. I'm mixed. There's a side of my family that is white, but I'm a black man in my soul, or rather a highly melanated individual, right? But like I said in one of my responses, no matter what you call yourself, when you're highly melanated, rob a bank and get away with it, and see what the description would be when you rob that bank. They're not going to say you're Cablinasian. They're not going to say, oh, this is a biracial individual. No, they're going to say it's a black man, because black will always be blamed, demonized. So let's unify under the banner of calling ourselves highly melanated individuals. How are you going to demonize that? And I will say this, that many of us who were brought up in the public school system in America, also notice that they're trying to erase slavery, and the idea of that and the reality of that. Who wants that gone, right? But when you were raised in the public school system, you were made to believe that your history began in slavery. And that was embarrassing to a lot of people. And let's not forget the brainwashing. When you would sit up and see these commercials late at night with the hungry African child with the ribs poking out and the flies flying around their face. It was the perfect vehicle to monetize white guilt. Because now you had a lot of folks who said, oh, this $20 that I send could feed an African child for an entire year. I can work my guilt off, right? And being taught that we were nothing else but slaves. There's a lot of black folks and highly melanated folks that didn't want to be associated with that history. They were embarrassed, and they carry it over into adulthood. So now, any way of calling themselves something else, they will do it. And your oppressor loves that because you're falling right into the trap of not wanting to be who you are. So let's say highly melanated. So now the people who don't want to be black, you can be highly melanated. Means the same thing. I mean, many of us are mixed anyway, right? So let's try that out for size and see how the enemy tries to break that up. Because the more categories that are there, the easier it is for us to be in denial of who we are and our true lineage and history, regardless of cultural differences. And so many people will bring up Obama and Kamala Harris and Tiger Woods, but isn't it something how blackness is convenient when you're getting perks from associating with that? Look at a Kamala Harris. Went to a black school, acting like a black woman, but she's Indian. But see, blackness is something that others can swoop down and try on for size and wear it as long as it's beneficial to them to get votes. She was riding hard with the sisters, but she don't give a damn about the sisters or being melanated, which she is melanated, right? And they're going to come against you on that. But every night that she goes home and lays in the bed, she lays in the bed with a man who is connected to the small hats. So who you are and your allegiance usually are two different things, unfortunately. And even Obama, who duped the black community into feeling as though he would do something for them. It's convenient for the votes. But once you get into position, you did nothing except chastise black folks and look out for the rainbow crew and Latinos, right? So you can use us when it's convenient. It's like that white slave master who had his wife, but late at night he would slip out and go to one of them little shacks where the well-built black women were, who were enslaved, and have his little bit of fun. See? So it's interchangeable for so many people, and they're in denial, and they don't want to see it. Something to think about. How convenient it is. How many in politics will come around to the black neighborhood, and you have white politicians and all types of politicians that come around and kiss the black babies and, you know, make these promises, and year after year, nothing in the black community will change. And again, we are to be blamed for falling for this. We are to be blamed for not having the unity to just say, you know what, we don't need these politicians. Yeah, when we need to clean, fix the road or, do some lights out and get it fixed, and the government, you press them for that. But our own unity and what we can do and collectively accruing our money and having real power and being respected that way, we don't do it. We're fighting against each other because of the poison that's put out there. And I just think it's a damn shame. We have to untangle our own minds first. But just like being on a sinking ship, too many of us are there. And we're enjoying the restaurant on that ship, on that cruise. It's like the Titanic. The ship was sinking and there were still people there who didn't realize, and they were just sitting there enjoying the music and enjoying the food before they realized that they were on a sinking ship. We love our oppressors so much. We have so much Stockholm syndrome that we will adopt their fear of a highly melanated planet and fight against our own and come up with all kind of reasons why this one's not black and leave them alone and whatever. What are you scared of? Why are you afraid? That's my question. And you adopt these categories that they put out there, and we suck it on up and make it a reality. So that way we can see something different when we look in the mirror. Attack me with your comments. I'm here. You don't have to agree with me, but I'm going to speak my mind. LanceScurv out. On to the next one. Let's have some fun with this one. Peace.